And so, as we start this service, we simply recognize the service, the source of all. Spirit, God, the presence, the infinite supply of life. Knowing that all present are and always have been one with this source of life. We bless and give thanks today for this Alaska Center for Spiritual Living, for all of those joining us online, for our speaker, our teachers, the tech staff, and of course, our amazing choir and music director, and Judy as our greeter. Please help me anchor this blessing by saying, and so it is. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We all kind of look like we need a nap. Oh, yeah, I'm just talking for myself. It's just, okay. So, honoring all paths. So here somewhere. Our candle lighter this morning is Claire Koppel.
Yay!
So, as you know, we're an interfaith gathering, a spiritual community that honors all teachings and all spiritual teachers. So we begin this ceremony that celebrates the oneness of life, which acknowledges that all people in all faith come from the one universal presence, which we call Spirit. And so our first, the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. Shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of pristine spirituality. Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And our last candle is the healing candle of love, and we invite you in the stillness of your own mind to bring to awareness the names of anyone that you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and of light. And now that our flames of faith are fully lit, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. And our sacred reading today is from Jane Beach, Reverend Jane Beach. Every moment of my life, I'm either living more fully or withdrawing into loss. I can work with life circumstances or struggle against them. I can challenge my fears or believe them. I can expand my point of view or try to protect it. I can believe in myself or find myself lacking. Today, I step out into life. Gathering courage as I go, I gain momentum every single time I make the choice to live more fully. In the process, I'm learning that there's a whole new side of me, and it's someone I like. And so it is. Back to the quote. So here in the center, we're based, our bedrock is prayer. And we have several ways that you can avail yourself to prayer. The first being a 1 minute miracle, or what is Kaleem calling it? A one moment? Because Kaleem couldn't pray in a minute or less if he tried. Oh, sorry. Hi, Kaleem. I love you. Sorry. You tap one of the practitioners on the shoulder after service, and today our practitioners are, please stand. We've got Cynthia George in the back, Judy Wolf. We got Bob, the human. We've got the Rev. Next door, we've got Robert. And is Ann here today?
She is.
She is, Ann Fleming. And myself, and I recommend the Rev and Ann are going to be gone for like a month, so get some Ann and Dawn time. The other way is, of course, the 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep, and so you might as well send out a prayer request. Just go to our website, go to our page, and it'll tell you where to go to put in a prayer request. And the minute you send that prayer is in the universe, and not only in that moment, but then it'll be surrounded by practitioners praying for you. What a cool thing. Written prayer requests, there should be a piece of paper in the seat pocket in front of you. Rev, you're just going to have to wander around and find one. Written prayer, we have a prayer box on the way out. Please feel free to write out your prayer, and then we send those out today, and you can be soaked in prayer that way. So cool. Prayer. Yes.
We cannot be born of the Spirit unless we do the will of Spirit. And the will of Spirit is goodness, peace, mercy, justice, and truth. It is a conscious union with God. Those are the words of Ernest Holmes. It is written in what we call our textbook, the Science of Mind book. In our movement at this center, our job is to pray, as Linda talked about, and to move our feet. We can know a truth. We can know that. If you come and talk to me, you ask for a 1 minute miracle after service today, and what you're looking for is a job. You want a job. I can sit down and absolutely know that employer, there's an employer out there right now that is absolutely looking for a candidate with your exact qualities. And this employer is anxious to find you and hire you. And I can absolutely know that. But if you don't go down and fill out an application, if you don't brush up your resume, if you don't do your part, it isn't going to happen. We have to be actively engaged in what we are doing. In the invitation to participate in a collective grand rising, it's incumbent upon each and every one of us to do our own healing work of internal bias. This includes all types of bias, including gender, racial, cultural, and any other demarcation of division. And how do we go about moving our feet? How do we do this? We do this through our mission statement, the thing that we preach in here, and that is classes. It is in our classes that we expose ourselves to new ways of thinking, new ways of being. Classes, book studies, seminars. What we have coming up. See, Linda didn't know I already had this. Cynthia George is doing a book study, Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting, on Tuesdays. We don't know which Tuesday yet, but it's going to be starting. Linda Steiner is teaching a Jane Beach class. Go figure. She loves Jane Beach. God is, I am. Is that it? And that'll be on Thursdays. We talked with Barbara Taylor. She is currently teaching an online class on basic life skills, and right now she's talking about money and budgeting and whatnot. This is a Zoom class, but we're meeting with Barbara, to see if we can work together to provide these basic life skills classes through our center right here in person. And she's got a whole suite of classes that she's going to be working on. Tony Shannon is going to be working on visioning all the way from Kotlik. She's doing a visioning thing and inviting everyone to join her in visioning, and there's more to come on that. After service today, we found out that Kenzie is going to be conducting her short energy audit class. And I just learned a few minutes ago that Bob and Colleen are going to be doing a book study, and it's on afformations. Notice the afformations as opposed to affirmations. So I can't wait to see what that's all about. You have heard me use the term in the past, truth with a capital T. I always talk about truth with a capital T. Well, I finally had somebody come up and say, what in the world is truth with a capital T as opposed to truth with a little t? And what the difference between those is, the capital T truth is an enduring, everlasting truth. Something that exists, always has, always will be. It is not a condition, it is above that, is a capital T truth, as opposed to a little t truth. Example, we can use our abundance quotient in there. We may feel as if though we are broke, that we don't have enough money. That's a little t truth, because that is a condition. The capital T truth is that we live in an abundant universe. Now, being able to get up and say, yeah, I know we live in an abundant universe, but I still don't have enough money to make it to the end of the month. I have to make a choice between my medicine and my food. That is an absolute fact. It is true, and it is a little t truth. What we can do when we pray, what we know capital T truths. We can know that that infinite universe is for you, and we can know that on your behalf. We can know that with you and for you, and to open up to all the possibilities that are there. And I won't go into all of them today, I've done it before, but the examples of a shift in attitude and how much difference that can make. Our monthly theme is a grand rising. Been talking that for 2 weeks now. And the title of my talk today is Choose Again. And you can see how those fit together, because as we have a grand rising, whether we wake up in the morning and have a grand rising, or that's just a metaphor for having a spiritual awakening to a better way of living and being, regardless of what it is, we are given the opportunity every single day, every single minute, to choose again. We can choose a different way of viewing those conditions that we're in. And we can have a different way to choose what we're doing. And if you haven't tapped anybody on the shoulder for a 1-minute miracle, I invite you to do that. Choose again. 3 major points today I'm going to talk about. Number 1, seeing the truth. Number 2, divided or united. And number 3, I'm going to talk about love is all there is. But first of all, seeing the truth. Tomorrow we celebrate the life and the accomplishments of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What an incredible, incredible man. At the age of 33, that's pretty young. It's getting younger all the time. He was consulting with the President of the United States, JFK, on civil rights issues. They were working together at the age of 33. At age 34, Martin Luther King Jr. delivered one of the 2 most iconic speeches in the history of the United States. There's a Gettysburg Address and I Have a Dream. The 2 most important and most often embraced speeches And the man delivered that speech at the age of 34. At age 35, he received the Nobel Peace Prize. Unfortunately, his life was cut short at age 39 when he was assassinated. But I can't believe that if Martin Luther King Jr. were alive today, that he would have many of his own things that he could deal with today and know the capital T truth for. I think one of the things that might pop up, and this is what came up for me, is this idea of incarceration and the mass prison industrial complex in the United States. When Martin Luther King Jr. was killed, it was 1968, there were 188,000 people in jail in the United States. Today, there are over 2 million. The United States today has a larger percentage of black people in prison than there were in South Africa at the height of apartheid. No other country in the world comes even remotely close to the number of incarcerated people as the United States. You look at that bar graph, it is shocking. The number of incarcerated people per 100,000 in the United States is between 700 and 900 people for every 100,000 people. Between 700 and 900 are in jail. Most of the rest of the civilized world is less than 100. And Alaska is the leading state in the number of incarcerated people. And I dropped, I think, all of my stats. I hope that's what that is. Yes, it is. Black people are 3.7% of the total population of Alaska. And yet they're 10% of the prison population. To contrast that, we can look at white people. White people comprise 64.1% of the population of Alaska, and they're only 41% of the prison population. But the one that has just stood out to me was shocking. Native people are 15.7% of the population of Alaska, and they are 40% of the prison population. 40% of the prison population comes from 15% of the native population. No other country in the world imprisons so many of its racial minorities. Many people believe that the prison industrial complex is a form of modern day slavery. And what can we do about this as individuals or a spiritual community? You, each and every one of us, or as ACSL, whether you're live here in the room or online, what can we do about it? How can we come together to participate in a grand rising to co-create a world that works for everyone? In this new day, it's the perfect time to initiate this discussion in our center. And the place to start is within each and every one of us. The season of peace is going to be coming up soon. And I love the line in the song, in the peace song, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. And the way for us to tackle these global problems is to begin with ourselves. And the best way to begin with ourselves is to get into one of these classes, book studies. Linda does a magnificent job of building community, but along the way, you can actually learn something, maybe even something about yourself. Point number 2, divided or united. In the United States today, we have what is known as progressives or liberals on one hand, and on the other hand, we have conservatives. And there seems to be a huge division today between those two groups, but it doesn't have to be this way. I'm so old that I remember the time when both of the major political parties, we had Republicans and we had Democrats, and each of those political parties had a conservative wing and a liberal wing. And the way things got to be done is if somebody wanted to get elected, if they went all way too far conservative, they'd lose a lot of the people in the middle and couldn't get elected. And if they were too far liberal, they'd lose the people in the middle and they couldn't get elected. So what it became is somebody that could collect from both sides. And so you get a moderate from the Republican Party, you get a moderate from the Democratic Party, and that's how we decided how we'd come up with a president. We're not quite that way today, but that doesn't mean that we have to be vitriolic. It doesn't mean we have to attack one another. But it sure does mean that we can work together to solve the problems that face our country. And I don't think there's any trouble finding the problems to work on. It's the yin and the yang. In the opening prologue of Dr. King's book, Strength to Love, he wrote, "We must combine the toughness of the serpent and the softness of a dove, a tough mind and a tender heart." A collective grand rising requires that we keep our minds on the truth of our being while having compassion for others. As we begin each new day, conscious of our ability to experience a grand rising within our own lives, our example inspires others to do the same. When we can stay grounded in truth, capital T truth, it inspires others to do the same. If you remember back in October, and I talked about Janusian thinking, that ability to hold two seemingly opposites in your mind at the same time, this is exactly what we're talking about. We hold two seemingly opposite ideas in mind at the same time. Another quote from Martin Luther King Jr., "Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that." And that leads us into our third point. Love is all there is. People who irritate us and moments that challenge us serve as invitations to go within and shift to love. Shift to a grand rising. King also said, "I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear." Rumi said, "Forget the nonsense of there and here, race, nation, religion, starting point and destination. You are soul. You are love." Conclusion. Let the fog burn away so that you can see each other clearly, so that we can see beyond labels, beyond accents, gender, or skin color. Let the warmth and brightness of the sun melt our selfishness so that we can share the joys and feel the sorrows of our neighbors. And let the light of the sun be so strong that we will see all people as our neighbors. Let the earth, nourished by rain, bring forth flowers to surround us with beauty. And let the mountains teach our hearts to reach upward to heaven and inward to heaven. Perhaps a little simpler statement of the same thing comes from an Italian proverb. At the end of the game, the king and the pawn go back into the same box. And so with the idea of the opportunity to choose again and choose a grand rising, an opportunity to choose love. I invite my colleagues, the practitioners, to join all of us in prayer and simply knowing that there is indeed a magnificent power in the universe, a creative power which has created all of everything, including those that we disagree with, including those that we fear, including the ideas that we don't embrace. It is all the activity of an infinite, divine, creative force. And as we go through life, we face the little t truths, and we do not deny their existence, but at the same time we know that there is a greater truth, a capital T truth, that is behind that, and we embrace that greater truth. We embrace an abundant universe. We embrace perfect health and vitality. We embrace love. And so it is with love in our hearts that we can step into this day and we can always choose again. And we can just let it go, let it be, and so it is. Amen.